Good day, Full Sends friends and family. As we've been looking into 1st and 2nd Kings, under the topic of whose kingdom come, we've examined various aspects of life. This week, we look at the challenges of being faithful to God alone, the highs and the lows of standing firm in our faith. In 1 Kings 19:14, the prophet Elijah expressed deep despair, saying, "I have been very zealous for the Lord, and even I alone am left, and they seek my life to take it away." This verse highlights a life of extreme highs and lows by contrasting Elijah's recent miraculous victory on Mount Carmel and his current state of isolation and exhaustion. Based on this passage, a life with highs and lows can be described in a few different ways. First, the collision of victory and vulnerability, a life of highs and lows marked by the natural letdown that often follows a major accomplishment, the mountaintop experience. Elijah truly had a mountaintop experience. He had just witnessed fire from heaven and a great spiritual victory. And then he plummeted into a valley of despair. Immediately after, a threat from Queen Jezebel sent him into a spiral of fear and hopelessness. We see here the high points do not provide permanent immunity from emotional or spiritual lows. In fact, intense highs can leave one more vulnerable and exhausted. In the lows of life, our perception of reality often becomes narrow and skewed. Elijah claimed that he was the only one left, yet God later reminded him that 7,000 who remained faithful. We focus a lot on the threat. Just like Elijah, during his low point, Elijah lost sight of God's power and focused entirely on the threats against him. He shows us that low periods can make us feel inadequately alone and hopeless, even when supported by a divine purpose, are still present. God's presence is in both extremes. And 1 Kings 19 shows us that God does not only exist in the spectacular highlights, but also in the quiet, restorative lows. When Elijah was at his lowest point, God did not rebuke him. Instead, he provided him physical rest, food, and a gentle whisper. God lifted Elijah out of his low by giving him a new commission and a companion in Elijah, showing that a low point is often a transition rather than the end. A meaningful life is not one without lows, but one where both the spectacular, like the fire, and the sublet, like the quiet whisper, are recognized as part of a larger divine plan. We are not called to continue to live without fear, not in a feel-good recovery. After all, Elijah's lament, God does not wait for his mood to change before giving him a new commission. Our life is characterized by going back to the task obediently, even under the present cloud, trusting that God's purpose do not depend on our emotional state. God responded to Elijah's low point with food, water, and rest before addressing his spiritual needs. This reflects an understanding of the holistic pastoral care, acknowledging that being a man of God does not exempt us from human limitations or biological exhaustion. We today have the same encounters. We have highs and lows that will take us to extremes. We must be willing to see God is still in control and that He alone is the answer. Even in times of weariness, we must be obedient to God's will and calling in each one of our lives. we need to take the time to express that He alone is in control, and we must be obedient to wherever He is calling us to do.